Hello, hello. It's Tuesday again, and it's another time for, let me see, Wanderlust travel stories. So the last time Martine had, let me see, she was at Thailand. She went Bangkok, Chiang Mai. Then she went to a village called Pai, and she learned how to do fire eating. So let's see what's her next adventure. Let's go. Wow, she's already like almost 1 month, 1 month in Pi. Day 24. The village in the mountains. I started to wonder how it would be to earn a living doing circus shows. The people who did it were so chill and relaxed that I envied them more than a little. Let's see what can we change. Now I'm wearing summer attire. Local attire. Sure. I decided to wear a local dress. I look almost like someone who'd been born here. Let's go practice more tricks. Talks and tricks. During the few days I practiced, we achieve a kind of routine. We'll have a training session, then we'll go for a beer and talk. On one of these days, Yelena asked me about my experiences and what had made the biggest impression on me in northern Thailand. I thought about the trip to the mountains. Yelena drank some beer. I heard you also went to the mountains here. Did you see something interesting? I met amazing people there. So I told her all about it. That's a great story, Yelena said. How did you manage? I always have trouble when people don't know English. It makes me feel like I'm on a different planet. You have to open your heart. That was all there was to it. Sure, it sounded easy. And maybe a little naive. But, oh man, was it hard. I think you're right, Yelena said after a moment of silence. We're all human, aren't we? It's just so hard to dig it through all the mask we put on. You're lucky you managed to do that. I wasn't so sure that I did. Oh, come on. You can doubt everything. They sounded like really nice people. And so what if you paid them for the dinner? You had something there, and you really met someone. You connected. We talked more, but there was nothing much of consequence. The best way to move around was to rent a scooter. And most of the tourists did, even if they've never driven a scooter before. Watching them trying to figure it out was both hilarious and dangerous. I was beginning to feel restless. Day 26. One day, I realized that I've been in Thailand for 26 days, and I spent a lot of them here. I was starting to think about leaving northern Thailand. Maybe let's go to a party. As I mentioned before, every night we had a campfire. I like it as there was an atmosphere that I appreciated. We were sitting there, drinking, sometimes singing, or sharing stories and thoughts. There were also spontaneous performances. After all, we were in a circus hostel. It was incredibly fun, but it was after one such campfire that I left. It all started with a guy who drank too much. He sat next to me and Yelena, looked at us, looked at the fire, and then snorted. Bullshit. I recognized him as someone I'd met on my very first day in Thailand. It was Max from New York. He stared gloomily into the campfire, clearly waiting for someone to ask him about what he'd just done. What shall I do? Do I want to talk to him or shall I ignore him? Let's try talking to him. I sighed and asked, what's the bullshit? This, he grumbled. All of this authentic circus village. So different from other places, non-commercial. True? Well, different my ass. Did you get dumped, Max? Asked Yelena. You sound like you've been dumped. Guys always get philosophical then. No, and you're being sexist, answered Max. Everyone gets philosophical when they've been dumped, and that's not what I was talking about. Why are you derailing me? Why don't you tell us what's the matter? Yelena groaned. He threw a rock into the campfire. Everyone acts for everyone else. We thought that we're going to make a sorry. We thought that we're going to make real connections here. But it's as fake as every place else. That's what he said. Every place. Yelena poked me discreetly. Dumped, for sure. I ignored the whispered remark. Of course, everyone acts here, Max. People do it all the time, especially in the fucking circus. Acting is exactly the way you can get to know yourself. The way you act is the result of your own choices, after all. Your intentions are really what matter. So, maybe you should ask yourself about your intentions. For example, your intentions behind this little show you are doing for us right now. I told him, I'm not doing a show. Also, look me in the eyes and tell me I'm wrong. Have you found anything about yourself here? Anything at all? Of course I had. I told him about my most meaningful experience. The hospitality I experienced in the mountains. Thanks to that, my heart was now more open and I knew I could connect with people on a deep level, even if we didn't share a language. Well, good for you, he said skeptically. But if you ask me, you sound naive. Oh, wrong accent. But okay, let me try again. But if you ask me, you sound naive. Naive. I need to get around this word. But if you ask me, you sound naive. Oh, but without emotion. But if you ask me, you sound naive. Better, I think. I hadn't asked him, but he didn't seem to care. Anyway, it seems you've won our bet. You want a beer? I owe you a beer, I guess. I didn't know if I wanted to drink with him. Why not? I could discuss things for a little longer, so I grabbed myself a beer and we started talking. It was good to realize that I was in fact able to find what I've been looking for. I had no doubt there was even more in stock for me. I've been in Thailand for a long time now. I'd experienced a lot and seen a few things that maybe I hadn't wanted to see. Pai was kind of a safe harbor, a place where I could think about it all. But if I stayed there longer, it would have quickly led to stagnation. I didn't come to Asia for stagnation. I was running from it. It was time to move on. Okay, let's move to something more comfy. And let's go to bus station. I boarded the bus again. Oh, it's almost Christmas. Sunday, December 23rd. People were talking quietly. A turn in the road, and another turn, and another one, and another. I have been bored if my stomach wasn't trying to start a rebellion. A group of teenagers played loud music on their phones. Thai techno. Why was it always techno? Why pay for a roller coaster when you can just go from Pai to Chiang Mai? Some kid on a bus puked. It was unpleasant, but not surprising. This time, prepared for and used to the road, I could actually focus on the vistas. Someone was taking pictures of the road with their phone. I felt like I was on a roller coaster. A turn in the road, and another turn, and another one, and another. I tried to talk to the teenagers, but they didn't speak English, or rather pretended that they didn't. The vomiting kid was crying. Days flew by. One day, I found a multiplex cinema and feeling homesick. I went to see a Hollywood flick. It was just like home, except for the Thai subtitles and the Thai national anthem playing before the movie. Oh, I've experienced that before. Sorry for the pause. Basically they will play the national anthem and they would request you to stand. I did stand up out of respect. It was quite interesting. That was my first time watching a movie in a foreign country that actually plays national anthem. Let me know if you know any other countries do that. I've been to Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Thailand. Let me see. Yeah, that's all. No national anthem. Okay, let's get back to the story. Go back to the same hostel. Me and the city. I really enjoyed my time in Chiang Mai. There were so many things to do. So I stayed there for a long time, especially when compared with my time in Bangkok. Let's change and then I'll go see John. Tell him about my venture. Maybe. A date? Probably. We met near his bookstore. I could see that he'd put some effort into his... Sorry, let me read it again. We met near his bookstore. I could see that he'd put some effort into his appearance. His shirt was ironed, his beard trimmed. Again, he let me decide where we should go. On objects and energy. After hearing about my studies and why I loved shopping, he gave me a wide grin. There's an place you absolutely need to say, he said. I was curious what he had in mind, and I wasn't disappointed. It was far from the city center, and I never would have it sounds like woof woof woof. Never mind. It was far from the city center, and I never would have thought of going there myself. I wouldn't have even thought about entering the property with its large green garden and beautiful buildings. It looked more like a small temple, or maybe someone's house rather than a shop. Until we went through the door, that was Inside, I saw some of the most beautiful things I'd seen since arriving in Thailand. There were dresses, shawls, bags, blankets, purses, blouses, and jewelry, all in different shades of indigo. As I looked at the clothes, I was told that it was an all women manufacturer that put a lot of emphasis on tradition and ecology. Everything here was hand woven and hand dyed. Huh. Um, let's get a dress. I bought a blue dress with a print of geometric shapes. The cut was traditional, and I thought it was a perfect modern approach to the local fashion. I bought a tight fitting blouse, hand dyed with a pattern of rosettes. I bought a shawl with more shades of blue than I thought existed. It was huge and could even be worn as a wrap top. I bought indigo dyed tassel earrings decorated with brass beads. Let's see, let's change. There was a gap where the curtain met the wall, and through the gap, I saw John standing there and waiting for me. He wasn't looking, but if he looked, he would see a lot. Let me adjust the curtain. I adjusted the curtain, wanting to keep my privacy. Not that I was self-conscious about my size, but at the moment, I didn't want to be seen in my full plus-size glory. Back to the same one. I guess so. Oh, no. Okay. I decided to wear a local dress. I look almost like someone who's been born here. I left the changing room and looked around, waiting for something to draw my attention. What do you think? I asked John. You wear the local clothes with surprising grace, he commented with an impressed smile. I know, I replied with a cocky smile. He seemed to be friends with the owner, an older woman named Tricia, and asked if we could see the garden. She agreed, and we were soon walking beneath bamboo trees and between short palms. We started talking again. Every time I'm here, I think about, I don't really know how to put it, objects, I think, he said. How they're made and what that means to us, and what objects mean to us. He looked at me. Do they carry some real energy, or only the meanings we ascribe to them? Of course, objects carry energy, I told him. The way they were made, the intent they were made with, the intent with which they were given if they were a gift. These were all incredibly real. I thought fashion to be the art of filling objects with energy and designing ways for others to fill them with it too. It was rare to talk with someone about something so important to me so sincerely. It was not that John was a great listener, although he was. It was the fact that he wasn't afraid of asking questions, and he was clearly fascinated with the answers. I swear, he looked at me wide eyed, like a child seeing fireworks for the first time. Yet, he was an adult and he conversed like an adult, only more openly than most people I met. So, we talk about objects important to us, about what happened to them when they stopped being important, what happened to energy, and what happened to meaning, about clothes and what they meant in Thailand, in the UK, in Germany, how the local available dyes became symbolic and gained traditional meanings with time. It happened with indigo and the women who work here, but also with orange and the Buddhist monks. We spent a lot of time in that beautiful garden. Trisha actually had to throw us out because we lost track of time. The night bazaar. The city was in a constant flux. One night, a street that I passed almost every day changed into a bazaar with hundreds and hundreds of stalls, offering everything from lanterns through local handicraft to fake designer goods. Shimmering lights surrounded me like fireflies. I walked among the crowds and observed everything, feeling safe in my tourist bubble. John was my private guide, showing and explaining the little quirks and curiosities that only someone local would notice. I was glad I let him in. Day 36. Oh, 1st of Jan. Oh my god. How do I read that? That's German, right? I'm gonna try. And please don't laugh. Frohes News Ja. Frohes News Ja. There J readers why. Frohes News Ja. It was 5 a.m. when I started getting messages. New Year already? Well, yes. Yes, it was. And apparently, everyone in the world decided to remind me about it at this ungodly hour. Huh. It was nice of them to remember, I guessed. I started answering, yawning. Funny. A few days earlier, I got a bunch of Christmas wishes, and I even felt a bit weird about it for a moment. Because if I hadn't got them, I'd never have noticed it was Christmas. And now, not a week later, I was as surprised by New Year wishes as the Christmas ones. Hmm. Yeah, time was a strange thing. Wait a minute. Wasn't there something I should? Yes, yes, there was. I had made the deal on my first day on Khao. I was supposed to tell Max and Maya how my trip was going. But I had talked to Max not long ago in Pi. That left Maya. Hey, remember me? Oh wait, this is Maya. Oh, we met on Khao in November, and I was supposed to drop you a line. Maya, you were right. It's not what I expected. I'm still trying to figure it all out. Happy New Year! I went back to sleep and woke up much later. What am I wearing? Let's do a summer. Oh wait, did I see something different? Never mind. Oh, I can change again. Ah no. Same old, same old. Actually, I want to meet with John again. Definitely a date. He brought me a flower this time and said there's one more place he really wanted to show me. Food, love, death, and books. We passed the fancy restaurants of the old town and went to the narrow streets of the city. After maybe 20 minutes, John showed me a small place with a humble signboard that I couldn't read. It was in Thai, which was rare, as most of the signs I'd seen were in English, or at least had an English variant. This is my favorite restaurant in the city, he said. Let's pause for a minute. Yes, about that. So I did mention I went to Thailand before. I jokingly told my friends that I traveled along with at that time. I was like, how do you know how good this restaurant is? It only caters to local. The menu has no English in it. It's all in Thai. You know that it's good. So we actually went to one or two restaurants that are like this. And yes, the food were really good. Provided there were people eating inside. Like my mom always told me that how do you know that if a restaurant is good or not? Is if there is a lot of people inside it despite not the meal times, it is a sign that it's good. Sometimes I would do let me see. I would Sometimes I would pass by some food places that are really crowded during meal times. Then I would like visit them during like non-meal times. Like for example, lunch is hours probably until 2 p.m. I would visit them around maybe 2:30 or 3 p.m. or somewhere before dinner time, 5 p.m. to try out their food. So yeah, and the food is really nice. The crowd, the crowd really tells you. So let's get back to the story. It was all well and good, but the menu was also all in Thai. Ordering would be a lottery for me. I could ask, I could always ask John. I felt comfortable with him, and I suspected the feeling was mutual. I asked John, and he said that I should try the cow soy. It was a coconut curry that makes crispy and soft noodles. Weird. Oh, sorry. Let me read it again. It was a coconut curry that makes crispy and soft noodles. Weird, but delicious. We sat in a corner, somewhat we sat in a corner, somewhat separated from the rest of the room. It was darker here, reminding me of his bookstore. We ate for a while in oh, what's wrong? Let me have a sip. We ate for a while in comfortable silence, surrounded by the smells from the nearby kitchen. Our dishes were steaming, making it look as if we were surrounded by the mist that shrouded the mountains enclosing Chiang Mai. I wondered if other people had ever noticed how eating with someone was a form of intimacy, a sign of trust. Until that day, I hadn't. But then, sitting in a dark restaurant over hot Thai dishes, it hit me on an almost visceral level. We were so close. Two lost visitors from another continent, both looking at the world in a similar way. I felt as if that closeness overtook us. Faster than our words, and I had a sudden need to catch up with it. Why the books? I was curious. He smiled, but there was more than a little melancholy. Sorry, I don't really know how to read the word. A little melancholy, trying to hide behind it. Oh, they saved my life, he said. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have asked. I felt awkward and was ready to back down, to say sorry and pretend that nothing had happened. But it turned out that he didn't mind sharing his story with me. He just wanted to warn me that he just wanted to warn me what lay ahead, I guess. I came here 2 years ago, he said, after studying his hands on the table in a moment of silence. It was after an unpleasant divorce. It was after It was after an unpleasant divorce. Here, I met someone who shared my passion for traveling and for Thai culture. We started a travel agency. We made trips for people who wanted to know more, to look under the surface, and to connect. One day, my partner fainted. We were rushed to the hospital, but there was nothing they could do. It was an aneurysm. He wasn't only my partner in business, you know. It was such a heartbreaking story. I held John's hand as he continued. I collapsed, he sighed after a moment of heavy silence. I didn't left I didn't leave our flat for months. I just sat there and read. I read everything I could lay my hands on. Before, I wasn't an avid reader, but he was, and there were books all over our home. With time, my stories started to fuse with the ones I read, and I guess that was the moment the healing began. I felt the same about books, about most stories. In fact, thanks to them, you could live more than one life and you could learn from them. And sometimes they were the only refugee. When I ran out of money, my friends suggested that maybe I could start a bookshop. They were tired of everything. They were tired of ordering everything online and said they'd love to have a place they could go to drink a coffee or a beer and pick up some books. He picked at something under his nail as he looked for the words to continue. I sold most of Sunan's books. It hurt, but it was a good decision. Now I have a bookstore, memories, and I know that his books belong to people who regard them with joy. I understood that. Maybe I'll do the same. Letting go was important. I mean, I left my life and flew to Thailand. I was all about letting go. He nodded, and we lapsed into a mutual silence, each lost in our own thoughts. The silence was once again, strangely, comfortable. We met once more, a few days later. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I spent a lot of time listening to myself and trying to figure out what it was that I wanted. I sat in parks, took boat trips along the Ping River, and frequented massage salons. I was brimming with energy, enjoying every day of my great Asian adventure and finding wonders around every corner. Day 41. Chiang Mai mornings. I knew that I could I knew that I wouldn't stay for much longer. I quite like Chiang Mai, but I've been there for quite a long time. I think I'll say goodbye to John. before going back to Bangkok. The last evening. The sun was setting over the mountains when we came back to his bookstore. We stood under the green signboard, feeling nostalgic, and as if we knew that we wouldn't be seeing each other again. I looked at John once more. I loved talking with him. "We could go for a walk," he suggested. A walk was fine. Just around the riverbed. We went to the river. There were some parties on the boats and in the clubs along the banks, but we soon left them all behind us without even noticing us we're so immersed in conversation. We talk about life, dreams, metaphysics, and our fears and hopes. And all of this with it sober. We talk until the sky turned navy blue, carried on when it became golden, painted with the rising sun, and were still talking after it settled into blue for the day. At 7 a.m., he left me at the hotel. We were about to part our ways. No, we said our goodbyes, knowing we wouldn't see each other again, and knowing that we would never forget. Later in Chiang Mai. I wouldn't be myself if I hadn't spent long hours looking at clothes. Okay, let's go for miniskirts and 60 tops. I bought a handful of miniskirts, sparkling tops, and cute sandals. Oh, I thought Sean left. Despite everything that happened here, I felt that I needed to go. The road was calling me, and I knew that if I stayed here longer, my pleasant memories would become clouded by weariness. Okay, let's change to... No, we're tracking boots. Oh, the indigo earrings are there. Cool. Let's go back to Bangkok. I did not just saw. May 10? Excuse me. But what happened in between? That's not all of that happened to me in Thailand. Of course, after my time in the north, I headed in the open... Sorry, let me read it again. That's not all that happened to me in Thailand, of course. After my time in the north, I headed in the opposite direction, south, to the islands. And you can be sure it was as exciting, interesting, and exhausting as the time I spent in the mountains. But that was another story. All the time I was looking for myself. Now I was back in Bangkok. There was just one thing left to do: visit a monastery. Okay, I need to wear something. Yep, that looks good enough. Highway to Enlightenment. To get to the illegal monastery for women, you had to board the you had to board to the bus in Bangkok, and after a 30-minute ride, get out at the sidewalk near a busy road. There was no narrow path through the jungle, no mist and no mysticism. Instead, there was a busy road, a fence, a gate, a sign in Thai and English. Songdama Kalyani, Buddhist Women's Training Center, it said. And 3 buildings that were like Buddhist temples in character, but at the same time look new, like public schools or some such. This was so much better than all the old stiff temples. Even now I could see that here. Buddhism was alive. The monk who greeted me looked a few years younger than me, but she radiated a dignity I could only dream about. She smiled at me politely and took me on a trip around the premises. The complex wasn't big or interesting in and of itself, but what was interesting was a double word? I think I'll just skip one. What was interesting was the situation of women who live here. In Thailand, it was believed that women can't find enlightenment. Intira, the monk who was giving me my tour, explained to me that it wasn't the case in all variants of Buddhism, and that the Buddha himself considered women worthy, although it took his stepmother some time to convince him. Apart from that life, here was normal, as far as life in monasteries goes. The monks woke up before dawn and went to the temple to pray. They ate only 2 meals a day, the last one before noon. They went begging for alms. Some of these women were well educated, with good jobs and lives outside the monastery. But they left it all to join an organization that most adherents of their religion considered illegal. Could you join them? It's not like I was thinking about it. Well, okay, maybe I was. Any woman can, she answered. Normally, you need to contact us earlier. But I think there won't be a problem for you to stay here a few days. Great! I was really up for it. Intira did some formalities and took me to the abbess of the monastery, who told me that if I wanted to stay here, I'd have to follow the monk's daily routine. Before long, I was a guest in Songdama Kalyani. The first morning, when the alarm clock in my phone rang, it was dark outside, and I really, really, really didn't want to get up. But I knew that if I managed to do it, the world would seem more friendly, and I'll even be a bit proud of myself. I sat on my mat and soon went out. There were meditation to be had and a silent routine to follow. Soon we were all standing at the entrance to the temple. The monks on one side and the guest, meaning me, at the other. When the gong rang, we went in. On that first day, I wasn't able to focus at all. I just grabbed a few more minutes of sleep. But on the second day, it was different. A meditation on Thailand and me. The sound of the gong filled the air and we entered the small temple. The quiet sounds of our steps and ropes almost inaudible in the grey morning silence. We sat on our mats and the monks started to chant sutras. Their monotonous voices filled the air, and I felt as if they were going to tickle my skin. How was I supposed to even start? I took a deep breath. Focusing on it seemed to work, and soon I started to feel a bit calmer. A space was opening in my mind. Space that wasn't occupied with intrusive thoughts, with what to do next, with worrying. But, of course, it wasn't as easy as it seemed when I started. The brain doesn't like empty space. It desperately wants to fill it with something. I wasn't thinking about the future, but I couldn't help having thoughts about the past, about the moments that meant the most to me. I remembered the dancing trees and the people who owned them. They were so generous, although they didn't have much. They had so much love, and they shared some of it with me. I really shouldn't have been thinking at all, but not thinking about an elephant never works. I remembered John, sweet John, who saw something in me the minute I entered his store, who gave me the perfect book, and who showed me Chiang Mai and taught me a lot about myself. Maybe the trick to meditation wasn't focusing on not thinking. Maybe it was in accepting the thoughts. I remembered the girl who gave me the pebble. It was such a small moment, and yet so important to me. I still had that pebble in my wallet. At some point, the thoughts stopped meandering through my mind. Now they rather flew through it. And then they were gone. I wasn't my thoughts. I was me. The time had come. My last outfit in Thailand. What should I wear? I was going out with style, but wasn't this look too over the top? When I checked out, the receptionist looked concerned. "I call a taxi for you?" they asked. "It's dangerous to go alone." I smiled at them. "I'll be okay," I answered, knowing it was true. Farewell to Thailand. Khao San was as crowded as always, and yet everything felt more intense than ever. Okay, maybe not more. On my first day here, it was just as intense, but in a different way. I felt as if I had just got to the other side of the intensity and excitement of that first day. Khao San was crossroads of possibilities and unknowns when I came here. Now, it was no different, but the possibilities had now changed. They were new and exciting. I couldn't deny myself this last walk. I looked as if I was going to a party. Did I learn anything about myself? I guess not really. The clothes I wore for the people who were looking at me, not for myself. I didn't know who I was. But maybe that was because I was at the beginning of my journey. While I was thinking about it all, I saw her. A pale girl who couldn't have been here for more than a few hours. She seemed baffled, excited, and tired, not quite knowing how to find her way through the crowd, bumping into people every few steps. She wore Western clothes that must have been soaking with sweat by now. She caught me staring, smiled, and went on my way. "Sorry, I know it might be rude, but I have to ask. You seem like you've been here for some time, and I just..." She stopped to catch her breath. Have you found what you're looking for?" The story is finished. Martine went north to Pai and Chiang Mai, and she spent days in Buddhist monastery. She went as far as she could in her search for herself. But no matter how hard she looked, she couldn't find who she really was. Oh, okay. That's really cool. Technically, she did, but maybe it was the last outfit. Hmm. Hmm. I think I'll stop here tonight. Let's see. That was actually a pretty nice story. I wonder whose story will be next. Hmm. I guess we'll only find out next week. I guess. Let's see. We'll probably pick a male character. Uh, then I will have to make the low voices. I'll probably continue with the voice that I'm using now, and I'm still brushing up on my accents. I don't think they're good, and my pronunciations too. The flow, I think it's starting to improve a little. Hope to see more people next week. Bye.